So, Sarah, welcome to the show. It is so amazing to have you here. I mean, what better way to continuing having an epic day with someone as and badass as you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for reaching out. I appreciate you making the initial contact, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. So, starting with the whole interview, let's go back in time a little bit and tell me where does this passion came from?
So, I I've always loved performing and being in front of people. I grew up as a dancer, and I did musicals in
Okay.
school. I was a residential camp counselor for 10 summers while I was in school, and then I became a teacher. And I just
Oh,
I love being in front of the classroom, and my kids were cool. It's hard, but it was really fun. But as I was teaching, I realized that my favorite part was the rapport
mm,
building and the getting to know the kids and knowing their story,
okay.
and this is coming around. So I ended up actually going back to school for my master's in school counseling, and that's what I'm doing now. And what's really awesome is with my performing and acting, I have so much more of a repertoire to work with because
Yeah.
I'm not only using my stories, but I'm using resources from around me, because acting is, it's like the art of empathy, and that's
Hmm.
all that my job not all of it, but a huge part of what my job is right now. And the best part that I
Yeah.
love is just stories and telling stories and getting people to just understand that there's just so much in this world besides your own little corner.
Mm,
And so yeah, so I did stage, and mostly stage. I did some film, and I loved it because you could be more um subtle, more
okay.
real. That but I did have to take a break when I went back to school, and then COVID happened. So then now I'm back. I've just been doing some stage stuff now. I would like to get back into some film, but I needed to take that break so I could focus on working while also going to school.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it something else you wanted to be when you were little? Like, I don't know,
Oh my
something.
gosh, I wanted to be everything. You can ask my parents. I was like, I wanted to be a ballerina and an actress, and I wanted to do hair, and I wanted to just run around the neighborhood. I just wanted to do everything. I wanted to be a football player at one point too. Um, but I think I always knew that I needed to be in front of people, and I needed
Yeah.
to tell stories and connect with people. Um, and I've always just kind of found my jobs with with people. I
Mm,
tried a
mm.
desk job for a couple months because I was in between subbing positions, and my light just burnt out, and I was like, I can't be behind a desk.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I
I,
can.
I make excuses to go down to the front receptionist, and have a stack of papers, but I didn't actually have anything to do with them. And I go down and just talk with her and say hi to people that are walking in. She was like, "Girl, you gotta get out of here."
Yeah, I can understand that. I used to have like an office job. I worked there for 3 years,
Hmm.
and even though that it was well paid,
Hmm.
after the second year, since there was no opportunities, like either to improve or to do something else, it was kind of the same thing. I started to
Yeah.
get bored, and then eventually I started to get tired and then annoyed. And then, of course, my attitude went into a point in which I was angry all the time. And then
Hmm.
later on, I got into an argument with my supervisor. He fired me. But the interesting thing is that even though when I was fired, and even though that I wasn't receiving that income anymore, it was refreshing. I was
Yeah.
feeling like a burden just went out, and I was like, oh, like feeling much better, much happier. And yeah, after that, I was kind of the same thing. Like, I mean, it's okay if you want to work in a place like that, that's fine. But
Oh yeah.
unless it's not what you want, then
Hmm.
do something. Like make sure that you focus on the thing that you want to. Otherwise, you're gonna stay there, and then time goes flying, and then when you realize you have stuck in the same
Hmm.
place, you haven't done anything. And I'm the type of people that we all come to this world for something. But of course, we need to discover it, and for that, you need to be able to try new things here and there, and kind of to find your place for this world. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's a desk job is good for some people.
Yeah.
Maybe to kind of just get their energy from themselves and just like, you know, are like to focus on, you know, one thing and
Totally.
and don't like, you know, a lot of commotion, and that's why we have jobs for those people. And then we have other jobs like, you know, what we're doing, talking to one another, because that's how we get our energy. It's actually interesting that you were talking about your past job, because I'm currently working with my ninth graders on introducing like career development.
Yeah.
And I showed them this. It's a Japanese concept called ikigai. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but it's like these 4 Venn diagrams. One's like what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And ikigai is the one in the center. It's like the meaning of life is what it is. And so like the goal is it's like trial and error, and you're figuring out about yourself and about the world and your strengths. And by doing all of that, you end up finding this ikigai. And what can I say? Like, did that situation get you here? Did you get the opportunity now to like talk with people and interview?
Yeah. I mean, I was having the idea to create a podcast, but like the main thing here was, what is it going to be about? You know, I mean, at first I was thinking about, because at that point I was exiting our relationship, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. But then a friend of mine was like, that's too cliche. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So later on, I saw this guy on YouTube who he interviews only actors who play either voice or motion capture for video games. And then I saw him. He was happy. The other person was happy. It was nothing but happiness, sunshine and rainbows. And I was like, man, I want to do that. So I started to search about like, how can I do it, you know? And then of course, yeah, when you are in this point in which you're questioning, like, should I do it? What if people don't like it? You know, what if this turned out to be like a waste of time? What if people don't want to talk with me? You know, you start to get into this toxic bubble, right? In which you just are questioning everything. But then later on, I was like, okay, I'm about to turn 30. I've been wasting my life into jobs and things that I hate. So why not try something else that I'm actually feeling curious about and see what happens? And that was like a year and a couple of months ago, and here we are now, almost 500, or I think more than 500 episodes now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing.
That's incredible. And like that's the kind of thing where, like, you know, you get to a breaking point and you have to decide whether or not you're going to let your what ifs get in the way of you living. I mean, it's your life. You're the one who has to live it. So totally. Like, are you going to let yourself get in the way of that, in your fear and your what if, or are you just going to do it and see what happens? I think when people just kind of go for it and want it more than the next person, you make it happen. And when you're passionate about something and you have heart in it, people see that and they're attracted to it. And that's where it's like, yeah, it's like, that's the person that I want to connect with. That's the network that I want. Like that's the energy that I want in my life.
So
absolutely. That's awesome. Good for you for, you know, just taking that leap of faith, and here you are. Like, that's incredible. Yeah,
and you know, it's so interesting because whenever you, like, either with friends, family, you will talk about this, right? That I have a podcast. Instantly they go like, "Are you getting paid? Are you famous now? Like, how much are you making?" You know, like things like that. And I get it, of course, but whenever I tell them, like, no, I haven't. I mean, this is still a work in process, and you know, this is, you know, you need to work on it in order to start to improve. But whenever you say hard work, like, for example, this friend of mine, he wanted to do like the same thing that I'm doing. But when I told him, like, yeah, but you will need to search on this, you will need to invest in equipment too, you will have to, you know, when I started to tell him like all the things that you need to do, then he was like, you know what, yeah, I think this is not for me. And I was like, I mean, I get it, but if you wanted it as this actress told me on my first episode, if you wanna make this a career, just make sure that there's gonna be a lot of sacrifices. There's gonna be a lot of moments in which you're not gonna be able to be with friends or family or even sleep, that you will have to stay overnight to work on your craft. If you're good with that, go for it. If not, yeah, you can do it as a hobby, but leave it like that then, So
Exactly. That's the point with
yeah,
like you gotta want it more than the next person if you want to make that like your thing, and it takes a lot of. I mean, it's just think of like basketball, right? You
yeah.
can't like never go to practice and then show up on the court and expect to like be drafted in the NBA. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
can't do that. You have to like put the work and the time into it, and I think that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of like the time commitment and potentially like not like, oh, I wasted my time because I didn't go anywhere, and like that's all
totally.
that like what if and that negative energy that like that cuts people out of doing what they actually really want to do. um but yeah, and I think that's something to kind of bring it back into you were talking about like the performing and the acting. Like I knew for a while like this isn't going to be my career yet, because
Totally.
as I had more of myself to work on, and like I'm too anxious to not have like a steady income, at least right now in my life when I have an awesome fiance, we have 2 dogs, like we're just trying
Well,
to like start our life, like so I'm content with that. And I'm doing something I still love. But who knows? Like maybe in a few years I decide like, yeah, like I've saved up enough and like I'm just gonna go for it. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong in changing your mind and
oh
doing,
yeah, absolutely.
but definitely like the education that I learned for this job, I believe has helped me to become an even better actress, and connecting with my characters and really getting down to the nitty gritty of their story and their
Mm,
why, their purpose.
totally. And now that you mentioned that, like how you prepare a character, now you understand, of course, that it depends on the role. But what are usually, or what are kind of the first steps, let's say, that you always do in order to start this process of character creation?
That's a really good question. First I'll read the whole script,
Okay.
so that I know how, like, just how the whole plot goes.
Mm,
And then I go back through and I find where my character fits in. And I'm reading that, and at that point, then I'm kind of like, I'm almost like playing a movie in my head,
okay.
my own kind of, as I'm reading it, how I would, like when you read a book, actually, this is what I
Yeah.
do to read a book. When I read a book, I'm like playing it all out in my head. I have the voices of the characters, like, so I kind of do that. And then after I kind of get a little bit of sense of like the vibe that like
Mm,
my initial reaction is to, then I go back through and then I start to figure out like, okay, what does my character want?
okay.
Like, and that's a huge thing because everybody wants something at some point, right? So what does my character want? Why are they here? What's their role in a relationship with the other characters? And just kind of breaking down very humanistic elements, and questions, so that I can then start creating that like skeleton of my character. And then once I figure out those answers, then I go back through again, um and then I'm just like up. I've got the script up and I'm like going through it, like, with that intention. This is where the empathy part comes in. Like,
Okay.
because in order to figure out their why and all of the intentions that your character has and what they want, um, you've got to put yourself aside. You've got to get yourself out of the equation. And you can use some of your own life experiences, whether it was your personal or something that you've experienced secondhand from somebody else. You can
Mm,
use that as like like a stepping stool to get to where you need to go. But then you can't keep yourself in there because that's not your experience anymore. You're just kind of drawing
yeah.
with yours. So then I kind of go through that and I'm like, okay, well, what can I connect with, and then what am I going to be adding to create this character's want or this character's need, and whatnot. So it is a lot of what I'm kind of doing in my job, where like I'm when I like speak with a student or a client, and I'm trying to hear what's going on in their life or their perspective of the world, and I get some things because I'm human too. I've had my
Totally.
experience, but the way I experience the world is, even if it's slightly different than them, it's still a difference, and I have to kind of take myself out of it to really, really, really understand. That's what I meant by acting is the art of empathy. Like you're being someone else. You're not
Totally.
you're someone else in your body. That makes
Totally. Yeah, of course. And like, has it ever happened to you that whenever you were preparing a character, you got stuck? Like something about that character took you the most to prepare it as others that you had in the past.
Yeah. So this was actually a stage role that I did.
Okay.
I was playing Gypsy in the musical Gypsy, and I got stuck because, especially in the beginning, so her story is like from when she's younger, and she's like essentially like neglected by her mom and her family because
Okay.
her
Okay.
I think it's her younger sister. June is like a star, and the mom wants her to be a star in vaudeville and all that stuff. And Louise is what her name was before she became Gypsy Rose Lee. She's like, what am I just? She literally was like the butt of the cow in the show.
Okay.
June was like up in the front, like with her cute, pigtails and whatever. So that's just kind of a microcosm of how Louise had felt in her life. And I definitely, now I was never a butt of a cow, but I definitely had feelings of, just like not fitting in, or just kind of like being in the background, or like, that kind of like loneliness, like that,
Totally.
whatever. And so it was hard for me though, as I was building the character, and this was before I started doing my my counseling stuff. It was hard for me to not do transference within the character because her experience was different than mine. So that did actually take a little bit of some time. And I was working with the director at the time, because I told him, like, something doesn't feel right. He's like, there's too much of you in it.
Okay.
Her in it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was able to, because I was kind of keeping that throughout the whole story. Because once she gets older, then she becomes Gypsy Rose Lee, who's I don't know if you've heard of her, but she was a famous striptease artist. So that's her story.
Yeah.
But she gains this confidence towards the end. At the time in my life, I personally wasn't at that spot in my life. Like I still was, like self-conscious and like, didn't think I was good enough and all that kind of negative self-talk and whatever. But so that's kind of what the director was saying, where it was like, you got to take yourself out of it so you can get to the end. And I am my own worst critic, as most of us are. So I can sit there and pinpoint and pick out all the things I could have done better or different, which is a good teaching tool. But I felt like I did a good job on the role, just, with that. I had a good director to, to kind of help me with my character.
Okay. I love it. Now, what if one day I call you and then I tell you I want to become an actor? Now, I don't have any experience at all, like none. So based on what you know and on your experience, what advice would you give to me before jumping into the whole acting stuff? Like, what would you say to me before even considering on jumping in?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I guess I'd have to ask you first, like, where do you see yourself in the end of this? Like, do you see this as just more of a hobby, like a fun thing that you're doing? Or is this like, do you really want to, like, this is what you want to do? Like, you want to make it to Hollywood and A-list actor?
Yeah, let's say that I wanna be a part in the next Avengers movie in a couple of years now. So
right.
Yeah, big one.
So then I guess what I would say would be, figure out what your purpose is. Like, why do you want to do it? Like, do you want to do it for the money? Do you want to do it for the fame? Do you want to do it because you like to tell stories? And just be honest with yourself about it. And once you figure out what your purpose is, then you're always going to be able to go back to that when you get all those rejections, when you get down in the dumps about it and you start losing your faith. You're like, no, this is why I want to do this. This is why I wanted to do it before. This is still why I want to do it now. I'm going to do it. That would be my first thing. My second thing would be, just prepare.
Mm.
Preparation, do your research, practice. It's like, I remember my sophomore year history teacher, Mr. Larkin. He was awesome. He said proper preparation prevents poor performance, and that stuck with me. And it's so true. So like when you've prepared yourself, I mean, you can hear my dog barking now.
Oh yeah.
You can be like, you're not going to be perfect because perfection is not achievable. We're humans, but it will help you to prevent poor performance. So I would say prepare yourself and then go have fun. Just go have fun. Enjoy it. Like, I think that when you go into an audition, or you go into, on set to do something, if you're not having fun, it's so obvious, and like they don't want to work with you then. And then it's like you're so dry with your character, and like, you're not putting everything that you've got into it.
Totally.
So those would be my big things. Figure out your why, prepare, and have fun.
There you go. I'll put that on my list. If I become an actor and I win an Oscar, I will mention you on my acceptance speech.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. I love it. Now, what has been either the funniest or worst audition you ever had?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I've had some pretty bad auditions. Okay, so I do remember this one. It's funny now. At the moment, I was so embarrassed. I went into my car and I started crying. But like now, I look back and I laugh at it because I wasn't prepared.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared, and I got there and I was in my head and I was like, I was anxious and all that stuff. And I started singing and I was like off key and it was awful. And I just stopped singing and I was like, we both know I'm not getting a call back. He's like, yeah. I was like, I'll try next time. Like,
okay.
I thought, because we both were I was like, I'm definitely not getting a call back. Why am I going to continue wasting his time with it?
Totally.
So yeah, but I pin that back to I wasn't having fun and I wasn't prepared.
There you go. Okay. Okay. And like what, I mean, so you do an audition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like how you manage like kind of like the second thoughts, like once you finish, you go back to your car, and then like how you deal those second thoughts, like, oh, I should have done this instead of that, like why did I do this instead of that, like how you deal with that?
That is a really good question. I'm still working on that. But I try to think about like, okay, it's in the past. It already happened. And all the worrying I'm doing now about what I did isn't going to change their like decision about whether or not I was right for the role. And it could be like I had an awesome audition. I thought I did amazing and I wasn't chosen, and they're the director. They have a different vision than I do. So it's that's kind of where like the having fun is, like you go and you have fun, and maybe I have a different perspective on it because I'm not doing it as a living career. So I can have fun. I can say no if I'm like, I'm not really trying to like, do that role, whatever. So, but I think that it's I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. I mean, on my episodes, I got used to my dogs barking into a point. I was like, they're basically in most of the episodes. So yeah, it's okay.
Okay. But anyway, so I'm like lost my train of thought now.
Yeah, you were saying about dealing with second, like with the second thought.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, right. So, I mean, I think it's good to reflect because that's how you learn. That's how you get better. So you, like, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong in going back to your car or once you get home or like whatever, and you just sit there for a few minutes. And if you're someone who ruminates on your thoughts, put a timer on. And when the timer's done, then you're done. Like you're done thinking about it. Go do some kind of fun, healthy coping strategy to get your mind off of it. But like, it's good to it's good to reflect, to improve, but you just don't want to stay stuck in what you did and getting upset with yourself and worrying, did I get the part, did I get the part, did I get the part? Because it's not going to change the result.
Yeah, totally.
So
Totally. Okay. All right. And if you could go back in time to meet the 13-year-old version of yourself, what advice would you give to her?
Yo, I give myself so much advice. Oh man. I guess I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I'd give to myself is to not care so much about what other people think of me.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as a people pleaser, I cared so much and I wanted everyone to like me, and I didn't understand when, somebody didn't, because I mean, I know I'm a nice person. I don't talk about other people in a bad way, and I'm always trying to lift people up because I know what it feels like to be pushed down like that, and it doesn't feel good. And like, as a people pleaser, I don't want to do that to somebody else. So I just would get so in my head about what's wrong with me is wrong with me, and just like trying so hard. Like I tried too hard to get people to like me. And I think if I could tell my 13-year-old self, like, just don't care so much, because like you only have so much room in your life, and so like for people and for that energy, and
totally,
like they're almost doing you a favor by not having you waste your time on them. Like if people don't if this person thinks something about me, well, they don't know me, number one. Then if you're going to think something that's obviously not true, you don't know me. And second of all, then fine, if you don't want to get to know me first and you're going to make an assumption, you're not the kind of person I want to be hanging out with anyway. So totally. I think that's kind of something, and I try to tell my students this too, because they're in high school, and it's kind of like when a lot of friends change and there's cliques and things
absolutely.
But yeah, I would say not to care so much about what other people think of me.
And I think especially right now, like with the whole social media and everything, I find it very interesting, and at the same time worried or stressing the fact that now we will see teenagers getting worried or getting stressed about, or even depressed about followers, about followers in the social media, about this new post, like why I didn't receive so many likes. It's so interesting. I remember like back in the day, we didn't care about that. We
had like MySpace.
And nobody cared about that. Everybody was having like their own thing, and then when Facebook came, we were like, oh, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. But now it's so interesting that you will see kids, I don't know, like 10, 12, 13 years old, worrying about their content, about their likes, followers, and you're like, that is so interesting, but at the same time, it's bad, because I think that you stop being you focus, as you were saying now, you focus and you put all of your feeling and your emotions on likes and on somebody and for the thoughts of somebody else, which is terrible, basically.
Right. And I'm gonna try not to get up on my soapbox about this, because I actually did a whole research project for my master's about social media, the way that it's affected mental health in general. But it's that highlight reel, and that's all that they see, and so they're upward comparing their own worth to somebody's highlight reel, and they know in their own life, like, all this stuff's happening and my life's falling apart, but this person looks like they're living the time of their life, but really they don't know what's going on, because nobody's going to post about anything that's happening to them. But it's hard to remind yourself that this is just a highlight reel, and that my worth is not about the likes, or about how somebody, how many followers I have, or whatever. It's difficult, because a lot of society promotes that,
Yeah, totally.
but it is like it literally like getting likes becomes some dopamine rush and creates addictions to people just wanting and wanting and wanting and wanting more of that like synthetic validation. And it is sad. It's sad. But I do think I have some hope though. A lot of the kids I've been talking to lately are a lot more self-aware of all of that. I think us was a millennials, Gen Z. I don't know what everyone's called now. I think that we were almost like the guinea pigs of it, and so a lot of the adjustment had to do with us. Like we had to kind of go through that, and now I think we have enough data to show like, okay, this is what's going on, this is why it's happening, this is what we can be doing to manage that. And I think a lot of the kids now are more aware of it.
Yeah.
It's still hard, but at least I know that this is somebody's highlight reel.
Yeah, because I mean it's so like unreal. Like I have a cousin, he's like what, like 11 years old, and one day he was pissed all day, and then eventually I was like, what's wrong? And then it turns out that he was super pissed because this influencer was following him, and turns out that was following him not anymore. So he was pissed about it. Like his whole day, and I was just like speaking with him like, are you putting your attention and your well-being onto someone that doesn't even know you, doesn't even care about anything about what you do? Like, are you gonna actually do that? I mean, are you gonna like give that importance to somebody else? I mean, you're giving too much power to someone that doesn't actually deserve it, so
yes, I like that. You're giving somebody else too much power over you. Like you're the one who holds your power. And I think like when people remember that, then it's like, oh, like I have the choice to be able to let this go. Totally. And but I do think it is tough because especially like now social media and online, all of that is just so ingrained in our society, and like that's where a lot of the kids are connecting with each other, and like so a lot of their life is online. Like we're used to it not. We can hang out without pulling our phones out and really having a conversation, whereas that's just not really like how they function at this point, and it's just the way the world has evolved.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's difficult though is that because of this, hold on, I just lost my train of thought again. Because everything's online, like they also can't separate themselves. So for example, like online bullying like is a huge thing, and it's actually kind of difficult to deal with in the school because legally as a school, unless it happened in the school, like all we can say is you can file a police report and then I'll help you process through what happened. Like so it's, but like when we were in school we got bullied and then we went home and we had a break from it, at least, unless they like lived down the street and were bothering you then, but like you could take a break. Whereas now it's like kids post just such mean things online, and it's really just, it's more of a reflection of them and their issues and the fact that they don't have the ability to deal with their emotions, but it just doesn't, it's not perceived that way to the other person.
I know what you mean. Yeah, the other day I was speaking with a friend of mine, and I was telling him like, thank God when we were in high school none of that was going on, because if that would happen I would have become a meme so many times, because I was like the clumsiest person in the world, so I was like, oh, thank God that didn't happen to me. I love it. That's it. So.
Right? Like, can you imagine? It's funny you just said about being clumsy. As I grew up as a dancer, and I'm like, I literally fall all the time. Like I think it's so bad. But like those are the things where like you do something like silly, but nobody had like a smartphone to record or create a TikTok, and then it's like forever there, and it's like you never can get away from it now. Whereas before it just happened and people talked about it for a few weeks, and then something else happened that change their attention.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, thank God cameras were not that perfect for on cell phones, and thank God of that. Yeah. But now, I mean, by saying that, it's kind of understandable why kids, right, will get actually depressed of this whole bullying in social media, because I mean, not only your school is bullying you, or not even a few people, because back in the day, I mean, just a few guys will bully you and that's it, you know. And I mean, and probably like your whole classroom, perhaps, and that was it. But
Mm-hmm.
now, I mean, it's not only the classroom. It's like the school, the whole county, the city, the state, and then you have comments from people from different countries bullying you. You're like, what the, like, what the fuck?
You're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah. So I can understand about
Mhm.
about that, like about that whole that it can get really overwhelming. But
Mhm.
that I mean, also I would say that you will have to. I mean, you have to look up. I mean, as a parent, I would assume that you really have to take a look on that. Like actually be aware of uh, of what is going on, and actually kind of instead of having. I mean, we also have to include now for this generation, besides having the sex talk, the social media talk, and like the whole internet talk, because. I mean, it's amazing, it's useful, I love it, but of course sometimes it can get overwhelming and even scary at some point.
Right. And I do think too, like, it's not going away. It's not
Oh no, yeah.
going anywhere. And honestly, like, kids are resilient, and the fact that they're dealing with this, and yes, they're, developing depression, anxiety in unprecedented numbers, but there's still, like, you have to, like you said, put this into consideration and then think about yourself, like, how would I have dealt with that? Like, would I have been able to deal with, like, this, awful picture of me just spread around the entire school, like this, airdrop to everybody in the middle of this pep rally? Like, or like, it's
Yeah.
it's just something different to think about. But that is going to have to be like that talk where it's like, okay, like, look, you're going to have, an online, social life, but you have to be responsible about it. And
Totally.
these are ways to be responsible. And if you feel like somebody else is not being responsible, here are your options on what you can do, and just kind of educate in that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's scary sometimes about like the whole, like how like the whole social media has evolved and everything. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, as I was saying, but
Mm-hmm.
we really need to we really need to kind of like show people, like sh- put attention to it as well, because at the end they're just kids, and I find very, very sad knowing that they're 13-year-old, 14-year-olds already with huge anxiety and depression, and like really mental problems, when you're like, back then you were not worrying about that. You were just playing with friends here and there, going to your friend's house, have fun for the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and that was it. But now we hear cases of 13-year-old, 14-year-olds going through medical treatment, and like through very intense therapy and things like that, and you're like, wow, like that is so different, like total different world from
Mm-hmm.
from what it used to. And we can see now like the whole clash between this generation and the new generations,
Mm-hmm.
that they are basically born with a cell phone, in
Mm-hmm.
which our case, we were like, I remember that my first cell phone was when I was like 15, and it was this Nokia small thing, like horrible. But and now we see kids like with their iPhone, with their Samsungs, already moving it like pros and doing pictures and
I
reels
know.
and
I
shit.
always have to ask my students, like, what am I doing here? Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even have my first phone until I graduated high school, and it was a Verizon Razor, like the flip with the like,
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah, I know, it was like old school. But I do think that, like, the only way to get in front of it is to acknowledge
Mm.
that this is the way that it is now,
Oh yeah.
and like brainstorming what are our options in order to manage it, and being realistic about it, where I think that it's important to have um, it's called social emotional learning. It's just like teaching kids at a younger age how to manage their emotions, so that when they are upset at something, they're not, taking it out on somebody else, or getting into a fight, or, cutting themselves, or, or completing suicide, or like horrible things that just are like this immediate reaction that people have because they just don't know how to deal with this, like these feelings. Like it's nothing physical that they can see or tangible. It's just all inside, and it's, like you said, overwhelming. So I think educating is the best thing, and then showing them, like, look, this is what happens when you're on social media. Like, this is you're spending too much time on your phone and not with, like, in person with somebody else. Like, I do think a lot of the kids though realized after COVID, being quarantined and away from their friends, it really did a number on them. I remember I was working with 9th graders, and they were like socially and developmentally 7th graders, and I had taught 7th graders. Like, I could literally, I just, in bigger bodies, they were 7th graders, because they missed like those developmental years. And yeah, they were depressed. They're like, I just missed my friends. I was also alone. I had no motivation. I literally didn't get out of my room for days. And so I think that they got it. They started to get it. And
Totally.
I do think that that's another reason why they're a little bit more aware of what's going on. I think there's a reason for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
As long as you look for the silver lining, there's a lesson in it.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, it's great. I mean, I miss those old, like, every now and then I would miss the old cell phones, because you were just for call, text, and that's it, And now with with the cell phones and everything, I mean, your whole information is there: bank information, account, money, transactions, your password, your email, like everything is there. And it's and like when I lost one of a cell phone like years ago, like it was like the old ones, you were like, my contacts, dang it, and that was it,
But you remembered most of them too, right?
Yeah. And you were having just a few contacts, And,
yeah.
But now it's crazy, because if you lose it, you're like, I need to reset my passwords, I need to check my email, I need to, if I have like a credit card numbers there, I need to either cancel them, or your whole day can really messed up if you now lose.
Right. So. And remember how good the batteries were back then? You didn't have to charge it for like a whole week.
So yeah, it was so cool. It was, and also like they could drop and nothing happened to them.
Yeah, I know, isn't it weird how it's like so fragile they are now, or before?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like crazy. Just did nothing, like barely anything. But it's like at the time, that's all that you needed, because you didn't know anything else either. Whereas now, like, you forget your phone, and even though like we remember what it's like to not have it, I'm still feeling like I'm missing my arm, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, we already got used to it. Yeah. I can understand that if you're going out, you need it. And it's so. I remember the other day I was checking this podcast in which they were saying that now it's kind of creepy, because your cell phone knows more about you than the actual you, because of the whole because of your search or your contacts and everything, like how and they ended up knowing you perfectly, and which is kind of creepy at the same time. So
a little bit creepy, yeah. Just from gathering. It's just gathering data, I mean, I do still think that you know yourself better than anyone, as long as you're honest with yourself. Right. So that could be something where, like, because it's just gathering data, it's honest, and so then it's like putting that stuff in front of your face, and like, why do I keep seeing these ads? Well, because you keep looking at them every time they come up on your screen.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's really, 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 really creepy. But yeah, I mean, technology. But like, moving on here.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I love it. But now, if you had to describe a film, right? Let's say that Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, Paramount, like whatever, they call you one day and tell you we're gonna make a film about you, but here's the catch: it's gonna be a film in which all of the characters you have played at the moment since day one, all of those characters will gather to celebrate your birthday.
Okay.
What would be the name of that film, and what would it be? Would it be like a comedy, horror, dramedy, or horror with comedy, or what would it be?
It would definitely be a dramedy.
Okay.
And I think it would be called The Misfits.
The Misfits. Okay.
The Misfits. I've played a lot of very different, diverse characters.
Okay.
Which has been awesome for me because I like the range and the challenge that it brings. But I say misfits because they all wouldn't be hanging out together. And so and there's always a little quirk, and maybe that's part of like me, like the character that I'm bringing, and because it's through me, there's still a little I'm a quirky person, like, you know, it just is. So it's kind of I do think that some of that, especially in more of like the funnier characters, that comes out. But yeah, I guess I'd call it The Misfits. I just that's a really hard question to answer.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it like
is weird.
we'll leave it like that. And what if you had to choose one of your characters to go out partying, shopping? Which one would you choose, and why?
That's a good question. I played Serena in Legally Blonde.
Cool.
And she was fun. Just kind of spunky and just like, you know, outgoing and you know, just seemed like she was a good friend to Elle, and I think that she and I would have a fun time if we went out.
Fair enough. All right, perfect. Now, what about, let's say that I open a bar, and then one day I also call you and I tell you I want to make a drink that can describe your career and yourself. What would be the name of that drink?
My career and myself. I mean, margaritas are my favorite. So,
Okay.
you know, it's fun. I don't know if I can come up with a name off the top of my head of something different, but it definitely would have tequila in it.
Tequila in it. Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, I guess I'm not sure how to answer that question.
That's okay. I mean, like the other day, I was thinking about that. Like, would it be cool, like, if I open a bar one day and then on the drinks, instead of having like the typical drinks, I will have kind of drinks made by some of the people that I've interviewed to kind of, you know, add them to
like a specialty drink. Oh, okay. Yeah, I still think that it would have tequila in it.
Tequila in it, okay. I'll leave it like that. I mean, when time comes, I will let you know again and be like, okay, so we have tequila.
We have to figure this out now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, like, what motivates you? You know, we all have those days, right? That we just want to quit. You know, regardless if things are okay or even if things are normal, you know, like getting into this, starting to having second thoughts and start to thinking like, oh, I think I should quit. You know, like as we were saying before, like getting inside into this toxic bubble, it's always way too easy. But on your case, what pulls you out of it? You know, what put your feet back on the ground so you can continue on this journey that you have been creating for so many years now?
There's a couple answers to that question.
All right.
The first one's my fiance. He always pulls my feet back to the ground. And it's like,
I love it.
He has a very logical, realistic perspective, and is able to be objective where I can let my emotions get the best of me. or I can be, unrealistic or have my head in the clouds or things like that. Or, get down in the dumps and just feel like, oh my God, the world, that can be dramatic. So I would say he's always been my rock to kind of pull me back. I would say a positive perspective and mindset is another thing too. And that's not like denying that there's negativity or that like there's bad things. It's like the glass half full or glass half empty is the same amount of water in the glass. When you look at it as half full, you see opportunity, you see a reason, like you remember your purpose. And that's another thing too, is remembering your purpose and knowing what your purpose is. But having that perspective where you're taking the situation and you're finding the silver lining so that you can use it as fuel to keep going or to learn the lesson out of it. I don't know if you've ever watched Silver Linings Playbook.
No.
Okay, you have to. It's so good. Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper's in it. It's actually set in Philadelphia. He's like hardcore Eagles. Robert De Niro is also in it. And Pat, who's Bradley Cooper plays that character. He lives by this word Excelsior, and Excelsior is Latin for ever upward, or like to rise above. And his line in there is like to take that negativity and turn it into something, find the silver lining and turn it into something positive, and use that energy to like make that difference, to keep going. And that word's always stuck with me. So I would say, if I had to sum it all up again, my fiance, my purpose, and Excelsior, like that positive attitude.
All right, love it. And my last question here is, what advice could you give to those who want to jump into something new, who are like thinking about like, should I like totally switch career here and do something that I actually like what could you say to those people who are having those doubts?
I would say that it's your life. You're the one who has to live it. So if it's something that you want to do and you do your research and you're smart about it, like go and do it. If you want it enough, you'll make it happen. And like again, just remember what your purpose is. Remember your why. Why are you doing this? And if it's because I'm not happy with where I'm at now, well then you got to remember that, and remember that you being happy it's so important. So
totally
go ahead and do it. And it's going to be hard sometimes, but if you keep remembering, I'm doing this so that I feel purpose and I feel meaning in my life, just go ahead and do it. And have faith in yourself. Like I really do think that we're capable of doing so much, but we just get in our own way because we let what if stand in the way. And it's usually a negative what if. But what if you did it? Right? Like what if it worked? So I would just say, like, don't let yourself be the thing that's holding you back from doing what you want to do.
I love it. That's amazing. That's the best way to finish this interview. I love it. And yeah, I mean, the fact that you're doing what makes you happy, but also the fact that you want to spread something positive here, the fact that you are kind of on the service of helping others, that is really cool. And also, as we were speaking before, like especially right now with this whole crazy times here and there, the fact that we have someone like you who actually works on the persona itself, on their well-being, and try to teach them something better, something to help them in here, but also like inside and everything. That is really cool. That is awesome. And I mean, it's more than obvious that at some point everybody's want to know about you and what you do, because as I said, it is really cool and it's by far super badass. So
thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This is really awesome. And I'm definitely blessed to be where I am,
Sure.
and doing my work and having the ability to still like perform and, love that, but also like having that fulfillment of like, I know I am, even though I don't get it right away from my students, but I know that I am doing good work and I'm helping people, and that's really what matters a lot to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. Yeah, and thank you so much for being here. I mean, at the end, I mean, this is super cool, and this wouldn't be possible if you hadn't accepted. So also, thank you so much for that. I also want to thank those who are watching this later, either here on YouTube or later hearing on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to go follow Sarah right now. I mean, the video is over, so you can just finish this and go follow her. I mean, jump to her profile, leave a couple of likes here and there, follow her. I mean, let's make her viral. Hashtag Team Sarah. She's awesome. She's badass. And again, Sarah, thank you so much. Have an epic rest of the week, an epic upcoming weekend. And I'll be in touch, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Thanks. Go Phils, go Birds.
All right, perfect. And that's a wrap.